So what is rotoscope? Why would we use it? Who uses rotoscope? I need an example of rotoscope. I need to call the 80s. Is rotoscope dated? Maybe. Gotta love art history. And I know there are some really cool apps that can do rotoscoping, and you don't have to do all this work I'm about to show you. But I do think it is important to understand some of the basics. And if you do decide to really get into this stuff, After Effects has the roto brush. You can use that and get similar effects a whole lot faster. But anyways, let's get into rotoscoping. So what I'm doing right now is I'm setting up my project. It's going to be 8 by 10, and I'm going to work, I think, maybe with a lower resolution, 150, but I usually work with 300. That's a little higher resolution. So maybe I'll go back to 300. And let's go ahead and click on Create. And now what I need to do is I need an image to draw. Now, anytime you're searching images, you always have to think about copyright and fair use, and I do refer to those in some of my other videos, and it is tricky. But for today, for educational purposes, I'm just going to draw one of my role models, Bob Ross, because he's just a very relaxed person, and I hope to achieve that ability to be that relaxed at some point in my life. So I'm using the transform tool, which is Command T or Control T, and I'm dragging, holding the Shift key, transforming Bob Ross so he fits into that space, my workspace. Now what I'm going to do is click down here on the bottom right, and I'm adding a new layer. This layer is going to be our rotoscope layer, or the layer that we trace on. And it is important that you have this layer. If you trace on the background layer, this is not going to work. And I have done that many times. Who knows, I may end up even doing it today at some point because I'm just not used to using Photopea. I will say though, Photopea is kind of growing on me. I'm starting to like it. I like the fact that it's free. Who doesn't like free photo editing software? So now I've clicked on the brush tool, which is on the left side, and I am zooming in using Command plus or Control plus to zoom in, and I'm going to adjust my color that I'm going to trace with. I'm going to use black to trace with today, and I've also adjusted my brush. Now you can adjust the brush in the top left-hand corner. I recommend using a brush size that is maybe 2 to 3 pixels. Depends on how thick you want the lines to be. I actually will go back and forth and kind of adjust the line size while I'm working. And the way I do that is I actually use the bracket key. So if you look at the letter P on your keypad, just to the right of that, you'll see the bracket keys. And that is a shortcut for increasing or decreasing the size of your brush. Now, I am working here and I'm working relatively quickly. I probably wouldn't normally work quite this quickly, but I want to keep this video under 30 minutes if possible. And I'm not really paying too much attention to all the details because, again, I'm creating a cartoon of Bob Ross. It doesn't have to be an exact copy of Bob Ross. And that's really one of the important things to think about. Is like, what is your end goal with this? Are you trying to create something that's photorealistic? Are you trying to create something that's more cartoonish? Originally, rotoscoping was used more for cartoon work, but I guess it could also be used for more photorealistic work. But again, then if you also plan on doing that, you just want to make sure that you have um, permission to use any photos that are not yours when using this technique. When have I used this technique in the past? Well, I have used this technique many times actually doing artwork for bands or for advertisements, even in the school that I work at. I literally go and ask people to pose, or I've had someone hold their guitar up and I'll rotoscope the guitar in Photoshop and use that in my artwork. So there are actual, I guess, purposes or reasons you could use this in modern day art, even though this is a very old school way of working. And there are faster ways of working. I still like drawing for some reason when I'm in Photoshop instead of just copying and pasting or rendering something. So at this point, what I'm actually doing in the art piece, back to the art piece actually, I am going in and checking all of my edges. I want to make sure that the edges are closed off so that when I go and do any type of fill, it will actually fill my selected areas. You can see right here, as I'm clicking to fill in, I have not closed off all of my drawn areas. So I'm going back over each area so I can actually do a solid fill. Now you're wondering, how do you select the colors? Well, I'm actually using a tool called the Eyedropper Tool. The Eyedropper Tool is right there on the left side. It's a couple tools up from the brush, and you can click anywhere in your project and select a color, and it'll automatically update your brush. So it's a great nifty tool to work with. You can actually hit the eye tool also as a shortcut to use the eyedropper tool. At this point, it looks kind of like Bob Ross. There's probably a few areas that need to be tweaked, but this is just an exercise. It's for fun, and I could at some point make something that looks a little bit cooler. But I'm sure there's actually some really cool stuff of Bob Ross already on the internet that I could potentially use. I hope you enjoyed this, and keep drawing and keep looking for new ways to be creative. And until the next video. All right, thank you.